Hi everyone, this is Matthew. Now I've been asked a few times how I do some of my weathering. I've got a few beta and rusted out vehicles, so what I thought I'd do is create a how-to or a walkthrough just on how I do it, not on the best way to do it, but what seems to work well for me. So what I'll base this on, and I'll try and do it in a few different parts, but I'm going to use a 1960 Ford Ranchero. This will be left-hand drive in the kit. My plan is to switch over to right-hand drive, so it's like an Australian Falcon. Now, all I've done up until this point is really just opened the box up, taken what I needed off the sprue, and left the body parts onto my main mat, just so I can show you. Now, the first thing that I'd like to do is actually separate the panels from the main structure of the body. Whether I'm going to have them opening or not, that's a decision I usually make later on. But what I like to do is, for example, cut out the door, cut out the panels. Now with a pickup or a ute, you don't have back doors or many back panels, you just got the where the rear opens, that rear down opening door. So what that lets me do is, number one, I can weather things on panels individually, which frees up some of the creative side of the weathering. The other thing it lets me do is when I put the panels back together on the main body, it does let me disalign them. So the one thing I don't particularly like with weathered vehicles that are weathered straight out of the kit is everything's got a perfect panel line. And anyone who's owned a classic car knows that perfect panel lines don't even exist after you've done a whole bunch of panel work. So that's what I like to do. So what I'll do is I'll skip ahead to what it looks like with the panels broken. Now before I do that, I'll just show you that I've done a little bit of research to see how do the front panels cut away. And for the purposes of just making it visible, I've added a dotted line. So you can see that's already a molded mark up until the window sill or the A pillar, but what's invisible is this portion. So you can see here it's a little bit invisible. I've marked it with pencil for my benefit, but for the benefit of you guys, a few dots with texture. So from the hood line traces all the way back up until the window trim, across the line of the window trim, and then it follows the door line all the way down. So that's what I'll cut along, and I'll bring you back to that. So what you might be able to see now is I've cut the door away, and I've cut the front quarter panel away. So this is what it starts to look like. So as you can imagine, it starts to get quite fragile, so you're just going to have to take it a little bit easy with the strokes that you make and try not to be too rough. Now, pretty common technique I use to cut the panels out with your X-Acto knife. You don't use the blade side of it, you actually use the back, and it's just a whole bunch of scraping. So you get the blade into that little nook of the panel line, and you start with some lighter scrapes, and you'll see on the back of the blade let me try and get it off there onto the finger. Very small shards of styrene coming off, and then as you start to build the groove, you start to go a little bit heavier until you go pretty much all the way through. Cutting it with the blade, it starts to distort the panel. That's at least what I found. So when you're trying to cut these very thin portions of the door up the top, if you're trying to wedge your knife into this crack here, it starts to distort the panels across as it starts to split to open up for the blade to fit. So it's just a series of scraping. So what you can see so far is I've cut the quarter panels out and the doors, and so this is what I'm left with. Right, so you can see the lower rockers, the way the frame comes around, and this beaver panel as well. So what I'll do now is I'll cut the tailgate out, and I'll do a time lapse to show you how that looks like, and then that way if you don't need to have a look at it, then you can skip ahead to the end of this video.